Hi everyone, I hope you're all well and healthy in this time of crisis. So I have created this short presentation cum short lecture on the topic of property rights. And the purpose of creating this short lecture is threefold. First of all, it will give you a conceptual clarity. Second, for an intuitive understanding of property rights. Third, that before you start reading with the textbook material, which has a more quantitative approach, this short presentation can help you giving a more foundational clarity on the topic. So beginning with the topic of property rights, let's see the pretext behind this policy instrument which is known as property right. So the pretext behind this topic is another policy instrument which we have already studied and which we have already come across is Pigovian tax. In environmental economics, it is also known as Pigovian fee. So as a policy measure, the purpose of Pigovian fee is to internalize the negative externalities caused by human activities to the environment. And the purpose of levying the Pigovian fee is to achieve the efficient level of pollution emissions, keeping in mind that the wheels of economic activities has to be keep running. In similar intention and in similar principle, we have another policy instrument which is known as property rights. Now, in order to understand why we need a policy instrument like property right, when we already have several other policy instruments and measures like tradable pollution permits, regulatory restrictions, Pigovian fees itself. So why we need it? Now, in order to understand why we need this kind of policy instrument, let's understand the society in general. So a society or a community or a particular group of people has a legitimate right to be compensated for pollution damages. So for example, if a industrialist pollutes a river and that pollution of river is an environmental damage which is negatively impacting people, so the people who are impacted have a legitimate right to seek compensation from the polluters, right? And it is a common consensus that in the rule of society, in the rule of law, that people have right to clean air, right? People have full right to clean and pure air. But that does not mean that the industrialists have right to pollute the air. So there is a clear distinction. Now here, air is the property, clean air is the property. And there is a clear distinction. People have right to clean air, which is a property in consideration right now. On the same hand, industrialists do not have any right to pollute the air. However, such clear distinctions between who has right, who does not have right to do what, is not clearly available in every aspect or in every environmental issue in the society. So that is why we need an instrument like property rights. So as mentioned earlier, the intent of property right is similar to what is of Pigovian tax. And the reason the property right as a policy instrument comes into picture is that there is no clear distinction. Now when a property right is implemented, they are generally the major parties are government or the affected parties. The result is that the affected parties come into an agreement stating that which person or which group of people have the right over the property, to what extent they can pollute, the amount at which the right over property is purchased. So till now you must have understood the pretext behind the property right and the reason why we are discussing the policy instrument of property right. Now you will get a clear understanding and in-depth understanding of property right when we see an example in the next slide. Now in this example there is an issue in place. The issue is that there is an agricultural field on your left and there are two agricultural fields A and B. The agricultural field marked by A is owned by a farmer by the name Jat, and agricultural field B is owned by a farmer by the name Punjabi. Now you can see that the agricultural field owned by Jat is up the hill and Punjabi's farming field is down the hill. Now the issue is that when Jat drains his field, when Jat drains the water from his field, the water gets downstream to the Punjabi's field and the water gets clogged. It gets collected in the Punjabi's field, which is downstream, and which damages its crop. Now we see that even though a farming field or agricultural field is a private land owned by these two farmers, but there is an environmental issue here. The environmental issue is that when water gets clogged in the land, there is a negative impact on soil and the land. So this is an issue in place. Now let's see how property rights can, as an instrument, can solve this issue. Now in this case, the property concerned or the property of concern is Punjabi's field because it is a source of environmental damage. So in case of a property right as a policy instrument, the property concerned is that property which is a source of environmental damage. In this case it is Punjabi's field, which is field B. So what we are doing is that we are assigning property rights of Punjabi's field to Jat. Another way of saying is that now Jat has the property right, or the Jat has the right over Punjabi's field. Now in this way, when Jat has right over Punjabi's field, Jat has right to drain water into the Punjabi's field. Now let's go to the another slide. Now Punjabi, who is affected by draining of water by Jat to his fields, Punjabi reaches out to Jat saying that stop draining water from your field, it is destroying my crop. But before reaching out to Jat, he found that Jat earns 5,000 by farming on his field. Jat earns rupees 5,000 through agriculture farming on his field A. Now Jat was also smart enough to find that Punjabi is facing a loss of rupees 8,000 when he is draining the water into his field. So what I am trying to say is that before the two parties, which is Punjabi and Jat in this case, they have complete information about their cost and benefits before they meet each other. Now intuitively think, if Punjabi approaches to Jat, what is the maximum compensation, or what is the maximum amount of compensation he will be ready to give to Jat? Will that amount of compensation be more than the amount of loss he is suffering? I don't think so, because if Punjabi is suffering a loss of 8,000, why will he give a compensation of more than 8,000? And another aspect here is that how much amount do you think Jat will be ready to accept as a compensation of not draining the field? So now think that Jat is already earning rupees 5,000 when he is draining the field. Now will he be ready to accept any amount less than 5,000? I don't think so. So Jat will be ready to accept any amount more than 5,000. And Punjabi will be willing to give any amount of compensation which is less than 8,000. So the reason why we are understanding the two aspects in this implementation of property rights is that it will help us finding the range of bargaining. Now, what is range of bargaining? This range of bargaining is a range of amount of compensation in this case. Now we see that Jat will accept any amount more than 5,000 and Punjabi can offer any amount less than 8,000. So the range of compensation lies between rupees 5,000 to rupees 8,000. So if Jat and Punjabi negotiates any amount between the range of 5,000 to 8,000, for example say rupees 6,000, so this means that Punjabi is willing to give 6,000 to Jat for not draining the field. The result is that the Jat will not drain the field because Punjabi in a way has given him compensation to not drain the field of rupees 6,000. Now you see the unique feature of this policy instrument is that no matter to whom property rights are assigned initially, the result will be the same. In both the cases, whether you assign property rights to Jat first or you assign property rights to Punjabi first, the conclusion will remain the same, which is that Jat will not drain the field. Now after listening to this video, try it with when property rights are assigned to Punjabi. So the key learning with this example or after iterating this example is that first of all that there is complete information about the costs and benefits of the party. Secondly, that environmental issues can be solved by clearly defining property rights, right? So now we come onto a bigger picture which is known as Coase theorem, and it is a next topic to come in the next presentation. Now behind the idea of property rights there is a principle in action which is Coase theorem. So if you understand this topic of property rights intuitively, Coase theorem will be a piece of cake for you. So try watching this video and I will also share the presentation separately. Try hearing me out more than once, at least once, not more than twice, and try understanding the example through the presentation, and I hope this topic will be clear and it will help you in understanding the textbook material and the quantitative approach. So do give your feedback and best of luck. Thank you.